Ready, set, action. Alright, my babies. Today is a special day, just like everything else. But in the morning it rained on me. So it's a Thursday, and I actually took a day off today because I couldn't sleep well yesterday. But it's fine because ultimately I got to consider why I didn't sleep well and all the good stuff that come out of like things like this. So I decided to spend my day off at my parents' house and visit them, say hi and all the good stuff. But I'm going to read you a quote in French that was sent to me by a friend of mine. I'm going to explain it and, if anything, connect with my friend through this quote and ultimately just connect with the meaning behind it. And excuse my French accent, but uh, just let me go. The quote goes like this: La vie est ainsi faite. On se retrouve à un certain endroit, à un certain moment, et il suffit d'un regard à travers la pièce, d'une rencontre, d'une amorce de conversation, pour que la trajectoire de notre existence change soudain du tout au tout. Quote by, I think, Douglas Kennedy, La Symphonie du Hasard. I'm going to research that properly. Du Hasard. Sounds very opera. But anyways, uh, so so the meaning of the quote, and I did not translate it. That's my interpretation of it. Is I think Ainsi means while. Translation. I should have wrote translation on Google. Ainsi translation. All right, much better. Ainsi means singular. Estonian. Fuck man. English. In French. Sorry. All right. Thus. So life has thus happened. That's the way I see it. When you find a certain, and droite, I think, is like a road or something. Let's do this. En droite. Place. Is that close? At a certain moment is enough for the whole thing to kind of like shift à travers la pièce. An encounter, a small piece of a conversation where the trajectory of our existence changes suddenly, all in all, and never is the same. And well, naturally, I relate to that. And if anything, I try to have every single day of mine. I'm trying to remember the mathematician I read about. Forgot his name. I should write these people's names for me and for you guys, like as a good point of reference for us to kind of research. There's a mathematician that kind of like every day his mission was to do something that doesn't make him feel like he's actually doing something mundane. His entire purpose in life was for him to kind of like not feel like he's still himself. And you can only imagine the anxiety that comes with all that stuff, but also like his sense of adventure. Like every single day, I want to do things differently in a different way. Even the same mundane things I do every day, I want to do them completely different. But this quote speaks about how like you never know when something kind of like happens, and pop, literally, your whole life kind of like stops looking the same. Whether it's I think in Arabic we will أثر فيي. Like, I think it touched me, right? Like actually like affected me and affected the way I perceive life and how my entire perception would shift in such cases. But I had one of those big moments that I'm very much closely aware of it. And I remember smaller moments throughout my life where I kind of like tried to build a pattern on top of that. Naturally, she sent me this quote because ever since me and her met, we started discussing things she never did before, but she always thought about them. And she was never able to kind of like have these conversations with friends of hers. And it's mainly because a lot of the time people are either scared or not ready or just kind of like uh, I don't know, we kind of like trap ourselves. We call it the comfort zone, but like the comfort zone itself is not fucking comfortable at all. Like nobody likes it because we do everything within the comfort zone. Most of the time, what we're doing is just aggressively trying to shake that feeling of comfort. It's our lack of movement that we call comfort. Fuck that shit, right? Stagnation that we call comfort. That could work. But ultimately, like, I remember in 2012, I kind of like had one of those big aha moments when I had established my company and I looked at everything and I was like, now everything I do, I'm going to do as if the guy who established this company was the first company I established. And it took me like 9 months after the company was established for me to realize, like, bruh, like everything you've been doing has been completely different than what you used to do. Your entire dynamic changed, your lifestyle changed, but I never got to like sit with it because most of these things kind of like when they happen, you're hitting the ground running and like pop, you're all the way fully just trying to, I want to say, survive the moments. And when I realized that most of my life has been kind of split into these aha moments and the separation, the pattern behind them. And I've had a couple of videos about this before, but like there's long, it's like, what are your bigger moments in your life? I finished school. I went to university. I graduated university. I got the job. And normally it's a promotion or something like this. And we're always kind of like targeting these big changes in our life. But the reality is we are changing in between, but we don't really notice it until we carry like new responsibility or we have a different like level to observe life. Well, it kind of feels like it's a singular approach, like a one line approach from one point to another, instead of actually like encompassing the total environment that's around us. And I think that's what separates like true managers and true people that kind of like are prominent in their fields and are like strong and like leading their fields, just like establishing new things with their fields. It's funny because like that's actually the second video after this one that's talking about the frontier and how that kind of feels when it comes to like approaching stuff. But so like I kind of made a conscious decision to jump from like instead of like my goal was to kind of take a 3 year pattern and reduce it to my goal was a week. And I think right now my goal is 1 day. And what I mean by that is because like I would realize how my life has become. When I made that realization, it had been like 3 years before I actually had anything change. Or like, I think like 2 to 3 years. I had been in Africa for a while. I think in 2014 is when I kind of like realized that. So I went to Africa in 2011, late 2011, and that was a big change. And then by the time I realized I had established a company and I had changed 2 jobs when I was there and I opened my restaurant and I was like completely sucked into the whole like kind of lifestyle of like waking up every day in the morning and closing the restaurant at night and like all kinds of stress that make you narrow minded. All you're seeing is in front of you. You can't even communicate with people properly at that time because you're in your head, everything's in your head, everyone's up to get you. Everything's designing your failure and you have to kind of like create that success in whatever it is. But yeah, there's a lot of selfish endeavors behind it because you're always looking at what you have to do, what you need, instead of kind of like absorbing the reality around you. But I made it a point to kind of like bring those patterns down in order for me to be able to notice these things. Funny enough, most of the bigger dynamic changes that happened in my life were not the ones where I noticed something big changed. Whereas I was flowing through that whole like narrow-minded approach, because it's narrow-minded, right? Like anything could step in front of you and would make you kind of divert. And sometimes it's something huge and doesn't really have to be something like horrible or negative. It could just literally be having a conversation, being heard, finding like a decent my entire, for example, programming career, my entire programming experience changed once I found this one YouTuber. And it's funny because like with everyone else that I saw, I just like couldn't relate to them. But that guy kind of like changed my mental model towards everything, and it made me see things differently every day. It made me build on top of different kind of concepts. So this quote kind of describes perfectly how most of the time we randomly. get to like bump into something that shifts our entire fucking movement. And if anything, we need to always be seeking these kinds of encounters because they're the only ones that we tend to remember. All the ones that are like normal are just kind of like passing through. But the ones that truly matter and like stick with us are the ones that after we're done with them, we feel like our entire core has been shaken and everything we've been like building till then, whatever is useful stays and whatever is not useful kind of falls out. And you kind of like start looking at yourself as like, that was a waste of time, or that was just a path I don't want to go, and that was a path I don't want to go. And then suddenly you realize all the blocks kind of like fall into place better. And then it's your job to start moving forward and build different kinds of rubble until like something else kind of like shakes. And imagine if we're able to do that like on a weekly basis or daily basis, where we're able to like accumulate a whole lot of stuff, and by the end of the day, disregard the stuff that is not actually like serving a certain kind of like direction, and then pop, keep shifting, moving left and right until finally you're like in a place where you're like, that place is a metaphorical place because it's how you're moving that's true success. It's not where you end up. And that's like a different video for some other time because honestly, it's just like one of those beautiful uh, animated movies that kind of like make you see the world in a way. It's like, huh. But anyways, I rambled a lot. Thank you, my friend, for actually sending me this quote. She sent me this quote because she thinks meeting me actually like had made gave her that different direction in life and shook everything that she thought of. Which is amazing because like I would always say yes to that kind of attention, and I would always admire people that are honest enough to kind of like look at their lives through other people's eyes and be able to kind of like enjoy the change instead of just feel like they're being overwhelmed. Thank you guys.